Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Kobe Chats with me, your host, Waylene. I hope you're having a terrific weekend. I am. I hung out with some friends and had a couple of very good workouts over the weekend, so I'm really happy. As usual, I want to talk about some of the stuff I saw in the news over the past week. Sorry, I haven't done those past week. Pretty busy. But this one caught my eye. In Malaysia now, you can be sued for making parody accounts. So this happened because there were two accounts in particular that were causing a lot of problems. So there's a religious affairs department in Malaysia called Jakim, and their Twitter account is My Jakim. Okay, sorry, Islamic Development Department. So in Malaysia, as in many places, religion's a very sensitive subject. So I haven't actually seen the contents of this parody Jakim account. Um, but you know what? You may not expect this, but I approve of the suspension because I think that when we live in a society that's so pluralistic, has people of all backgrounds, faiths, we really have to find ways to live together. And if everybody has their baseline for what they consider acceptable behavior, and I think it's just a neighborly thing to do to uh, give people the respect that they want, and especially if it's not a big sacrifice at all. I mean, if I were told that just don't make fun of your countrymen's religion, I would say that's okay. That's fine. I mean, yes, in theory, it means that you are subject to some restraints, but I think in our part of the world, long ago, we've come to terms with that. That is, we want to live peace next to each other, you know, and just in the same way that I wouldn't go into a polite dinner with people I don't know so well and then talk about Donald Trump. Well, similarly, I wouldn't do that for other people's religion as well. So I totally agree with this. However, I don't agree with the fact given to the other account that is going around right now. So, this satire account called Bermana, which is a parody of Malaysia's national news agency Bernama. It's a really funny account, uh, but all of it's in Malay. So if you don't understand Malay, sorry, I'll translate a little for you. So the one that got everybody really riled up was this one, where the Minister for Higher Education was quoted saying, oh, that students like to submit their homework late, so we thought we would, just do what they do and announce this policy late, and that was relating to um, a policy change, postpone uh, new student registrations at colleges and universities. This was subject of a previous video of mine. You can look it up if you like. So everybody was really angry, and this tweet only made things worse. But it was very funny, and that one's undeniable. And I would support this account. Now, what's the difference? So let me just reiterate. When it comes to a matter of like faith, when it comes to matters that are a race that are very very close to people's hearts, I want to respect my fellow countrymen, and I don't want to hurt their feelings unnecessarily. Right? Yes, it is a restriction that is placed upon me, but it's something that I voluntarily do even without a law. I voluntarily would take on these and be careful about what I say so that I do not affect the lives of my fellow people, right? But in the case of like the National News Agency, I think that's fair game because these are current topics, these are issues that affect everybody equally, and it is skewering the powerful, and which I think makes all the difference. Anytime you're skewering the powerful, I say go for it, and it should be definitely be allowed. So the latest update is that the My Jack Game parody account is suspended, but the Bermana parody account still exists, and I think that's ultimately. Speaking of the right thing, we should tell you a little bit about uh, Dato Dr. Muhammad Khairuddin Aman Razali, the Malaysian Plantation Industries and Commodities Minister. I want to commend him, and that's a very uncommon thing, and I realize that it doesn't happen a lot, and that's why I think it's special. I want to commend him for uh, the actions he took to express his repentance and contrition after being found to have violated his quarantine. Everybody makes mistakes, but not everybody um, does their repentance in a way that enhances their reputation afterwards. And Dr. Razali has done exactly that. He donated 4 months of his salaries, May, June, July, August, 4 months of his salaries to the National Disaster Relief Fund. Um, Statement, he said it was his responsibility as a minister to comply with regulations and SOPs. Yes, indeed. And this he could have just paid the fine, which was a 1,000 ringgit compound, and be done with it and call it quits. But he chose to take the unprecedented, extraordinary step of donating months of his salary to the COVID fund, and I think that calls for so. Well done, Dr. Razali. Moving on. So speaking about COVID quarantine violations, the Kedah Consumers Association want to sue the index case, meaning I think the first case for the Bah Lunas cluster. So what this means is that there's a person who's responsible for the cluster of cases in this place called Bah Lunas in Kedah, and they want to sue patient zero, which is really unusual. I mean, it's the Consumers Association, and I don't know if there are any consumers here. Well, maybe, yeah. Here's a little more detail on the index case. So the index patient is Mr. Sivaganga. Uh, the oh, sorry, his name is unnamed. He's the owner of a nasi kandar restaurant, Kedah, and he was ordered to quarantine, but broke his own quarantine and infected a bunch of people. You see, he had in this photo, he has a pink quarantine order wristband. He should not be there, but he was. Now, I would say I approve of this. I approve of this wholeheartedly, 100%. And here's why. I think that it's entirely reasonable when when citizens take action uh, to seek, redress for their grievances, when citizens take action to solve problems. I think uh, that should be encouraged, and you know, uh, it's just a good thing. I do not now on the flip side, if it was the authorities coming down hard on uh, this man index patient, I don't think that's as good a thing. I think, and the way to I think about this is, from the highest level possible about what kind of country you want to live in, what kind of society you want to live in. Do we want to rely on the authorities to take care of everything for us, and or rather, would we live in a society where we, the citizens, take action, and be proactive about how we want to take care of ourselves and work within the system, the society that we have set up and are a participant of. So the Consumers Association of Kedah took on the case, on behalf of residents, on behalf of citizens, and then sued the guy. And I think that's the right thing. That's the kind of society I want to live in. I don't want to live in a society where uh, I have to fear that the government will enforce the law overzealously. No, I think it's entirely reasonable that neighbors, residents, people who have come in contact with this man hold him to account for that. Now, I don't I don't know what the charges will be and what the severity, what is it you're trying to prove. Um, but I'd be happy to hear about it afterwards. In principle, though, I totally support it. All right. That being said, um, I think that the coronavirus situation is really inching its way to a good place without us noticing. Now, let me tell you what I mean. Now, in a previous video of mine, I have showed the case fatality rate for the coronavirus and all across the board, across all the countries that I checked and that I care about, countries close by in the region, of course, but also countries that have famously had uh, bad situations like the United States, United Kingdom, Sweden, France, Germany, and all other big countries like that. And I think I've seen without exception that the fatality rate is going. It's been really low for many of them for a long time. And now I see on Channel News Asia my favorite punching bag for fake news. I'm sorry, I'll give you credit today, Channel News Asia, CNA. See here, this is good news. Australia is in travel talks with Singapore, Japan, and Korea as cases ease. Indonesia's capital, Jakarta, to ease coronavirus curbs. So yeah, looks good. The Prime Minister of Singapore, Tan Long, says COVID-19 impact on mental health must be managed as more people face stress and disruption. South Korea eases social distancing curbs amidst the downtrend. It's all good news. Now, especially with the PM Lee, because at the start of a pandemic, your primary concern is physical survival, physical health, right? And only when that situation is stabilized can you start worrying about mental health. Because you need to be physically alive. You need to keep as many people as possible physically alive before you get to the task of addressing the mental toll. And I think society has reached a place where they're ready to evaluate that, more closely and start working on the mental aspect. I think that's here. This. Uh, Now here's the last topic. Final thing. I'm gonna end you off with something a little bit more challenging, and it's not about coronavirus. So there's an opinion piece, provocatively titled "Goodbye to Those Days When Women Were Pieces of Meat for Men to Slice." Now, this strikes home in my heart because I'm a man and I don't want to be accused of treating women as pieces of meat for men to slice. And so naturally, this catch my attention, and I want to see if there's anything here that I talk about, because I don't want women around me to feel this way about me, that I think of women that way. Now, author is president of the largest women's group in Singapore. Where? Here we go. Margaret Thomas. And I read this piece, or at least I skimmed it. This Parliament's passing of the Women's Charter in 1961 was groundbreaking, but the women's movement has since stalled until a recent announcement. So there was a recent announcement of a committee set up to explore the issue of women's rights again here in 2020 by the Home Affairs and Law Minister. And that's really good. I totally agree with that. Now, after having skimmed this, I have only one observation that I feel is really important to make. And you're watching this regardless of whether you're a man or a woman, I think this message is for you. So, you look at this. This article goes on for a bit, talking about, the long and arduous journey of the fight for women's rights. 9 here. 9. Right, and then what happened all along the way? Yeah, still 1959. There's a lot of change that has taken place over the years, a lot of struggle. And it it's all really important as it all took us to where we are today. You know, a very modern society where men and women are afforded, much the same opportunity. Now, I don't say that lightly. Uh, the the head of the what Masik, Masik is the sovereign wealth fund, the investment fund owned by the country, Singapore, and the head is Ho Ching, this lady who's prime minister, and we have in Singapore many ministers who are women. In fact, there are too many. I lost count. So we have come a long way. And what I want to say about this is that I noticed that this article is a long, long rehash of what has happened. It's very firmly a retrospective, looking to the past to talk about what has transpired with, and very little about the contemporary issues facing Singapore. And that bothers me. That bothers me because today here we are in 2020 and it's a totally different situation from the 50s and the 60s and everything in between. And why is Margaret Thomas, who as the president of Aware, uh wants to fight for a better future? We're not here to legislate the past, to debate the past, but why is her article mostly about the past? I couldn't find a single issue that she wants to fight about, that she wants to advocate for today. So what are you trying to do? I don't know what she's trying to achieve. It's very strange. But I want to find the face of this uh like incendiary article that she talks about, women's rights as something like a work in progress, that we've come a long way from some dark days. And I agree with that. I think we both are in agreement. And I think that women are today in a terrific situation. There are more women going to university than men. There are huge number, a very high number of women in parliament in Singapore and in ministerial position. So I think we got to remember that, even as we look forward to doing even better, for both women and men future. And I think that is the kind of uplifting, optimistic message that we can focus on, and that should be what we are looking at, right? Yeah. So anyway, I've run you through a few different topics today. I as usual and talking about it very much. Hope that gives you something to think about while you're relaxing at home this weekend. So, till next time, take care. I'll talk to you again